1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. Raw, real, unedited. My name is Jason. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, where we always have content. We have reels, we have questions of the day, we have quotes of the day, we have the blog, we have the weekly blog that we do. We have some cool food recipes and stuff like that. Check us out. All right. But you can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. If you would like to be part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Welcome to episode 28 of the Catalyst Podcast as we inch closer to episode 30. I'm really excited about that. So let's get started. Let's get started with a quote. And I've actually used this in one of my reels. Never blame someone else for the road you're on. That's your asphalt. Never blame someone else for the road you're on. That's your asphalt. I love that. So let's talk about today's episode of the podcast. All right, we're going to be talking about one of the most important qualities that we can possess as human beings. Empathy. Okay? So let's get started with the basics of empathy. All right? What is it? Simply put, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see the world from their perspective. Now you might be thinking, why is empathy such a big deal? I know some of you are and some of you aren't. Some of you can care less, but that's okay. We're going to continue on anyway. Right? Why should I care about empathy? Well, that's what we're going to be here right now talking about today. So let's get started. All right. Empathy is important for several reasons. First and foremost, empathy helps build us stronger relationships with others. When we have the ability to understand and relate to the feelings of those around us, we're better equipped to communicate effectively and resolve conflicts in a very positive and constructive way. Empathy also helps us to be more compassionate and kind with others. When we can see the world through someone else's eyes, we're more likely to treat them with the respect and dignity they deserve. Yes, I'm all willing to do that. Now, there are some people out there that want something more than that, and that's a topic for another day. All right? But everybody wants to be respected. Everybody wants to have dignity. All right? But to get it, you need to give it as well, too. All right? Another reason why empathy is so important is that it just helps us to be more successful in our personal and professional lives. When we're empathetic, we're better able to understand the needs and perspectives of our colleagues, clients, and customers. This can help us provide better service, build stronger relationships, and ultimately achieve greater success. All right. But what about those times when empathy feels really hard? That's what she said. Sorry about that, folks. What about those times when it's hard? Okay? When we're dealing with someone who is difficult or someone who we fundamentally disagree with. That happens everywhere today. You cannot have your own opinion. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We've lost a sense of empathy. Every now and then we'll get it back when there's some kind of catastrophe or drama or tragedy, but we've really become far less empathetic than we were before. All right? When we're dealing with someone who's difficult, or who we disagree with, it can be tough to summon up empathy in those situations, but it's precisely in those moments when empathy is most important. When we can find a way to connect with someone who seems completely different from us, we open the door to understanding and growth. We might not always agree with others, and that's okay. But we can still strive to understand them and treat them with kindness and respect. I don't have to agree with you about Donald Trump. I don't have to agree with you about Joe Biden. I don't have to agree with you about the war in what's going on with the Middle East or any of the number of things that's going on. We don't have to agree. I can understand your position and how how you support it, but I don't have to agree with you, and that's okay. That's okay. I can still treat you with kindness and respect. Not everyone does that, though. Not everyone does that. So how do we cultivate this in our lives? Well, there's a few things we can do. First, we can practice active listening. Intentionally listening with intent. Some people just hear things, but when we actually listen to things, it makes a big difference. When we truly listen to someone without interrupting or judging them, we show them that we value their perspective and are willing to learn from them. Because there's always something to learn from somebody, right? Whether I like it or not, I'm going to at least have a better understanding of it just from your point of view, whether I agree or disagree. Another way to cultivate empathy is to read books, watch movies, listen to podcasts like this awesome podcast you're listening to now, all three of you. All right? Things that have something that's opposite of your perspective. Very diverse perspectives. This can really help you broaden your understanding of the world and the people in it. And we can also practice self-reflection. Take a look at ourselves. When we take time to examine our own biases and assumptions, we're better able to recognize them in others and work to overcome them. One of the things I like to do is ask the question, if I'm not sure I understand someone's perspective, just ask them. All right? I'm not really sure where they're coming from. Let me find out a little bit more. Sometimes people are appreciative of it. Some people respect it and thank you for asking them, allowing them to share their experience. Some people don't, and that's okay. All right? Ask questions. Show them that you're generally interested in learning more about their experiences. Practice gratitude. When we focus on the things that we're thankful for, we're more likely to feel empathy towards others. So take some time each day to think about the good things in your life and express gratitude for them. Because it makes all the difference in the world. It absolutely does. So, empathy allows us to communicate more effectively with others. When we're able to see the other side, we're better equipped to understand it and respond in a way that's meaningful and helpful. Empathy also enables us to build trust with others, which is essential for creating strong and lasting relationships. But unfortunately, as we've discussed, empathy is in short supply today. We live in a world increasingly focused on the individuality, and it can be easy to forget that we're all in this together. But the good news is that empathy is a skill that can be developed with practice. It starts with simply paying attention to others and listening to their stories. It means taking the time to understand their struggles and celebrate their victories. Empathy is a powerful tool that can help us build stronger relationships, be more successful, and create a more compassionate world. Empathy is a vital part of being a human being. It connects us to others and enables us to build strong relationships. While it may not always be coming off naturally, it's a skill that we can develop by practicing, by listening actively, listening with intention, intentionally listening to people, asking questions, and practicing gratitude. So let's make an effort to be more empathetic in our daily lives. It might not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. All right? So I hope you'll be able to join me again for the next episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for just listening. This is the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. And my name is Jason. And this was the Catalyst Podcast on empathy. Now you can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, and Amazon. A catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do, especially this one about empathy. If you have questions about it, if you want to discuss this more, or be a part of this podcast as a guest contributor, or a guest, or a contributor, or a guest and contributor, or a contributing guest, or a guest contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Again, welcome to episode 26. Episode 28. Thank you so much for listening to episode 28 of the Catalyst Podcast. We will see you next time at episode 29. Again, my name is Jason. Thank you so very, very much for listening. Go be great.